For decades, I have stood by my husband's side, supporting his vision and ministry. But today, I have to share something that I can no longer keep to myself. And the crowd stirred slightly as Pastor Clodoller's wife stood in front of the congregation, her expression calm but resolute. The room silent, every eye on her. Confusion filled murmurs. She paused at 62 to allow the impact of her remarks to sink in, saying, "I've reached a moment when the truth must be disclosed. Secrets that have remained hidden for years are now too heavy to bear." The tension in the room was evident, and the air was heavy with anticipation. The question was, what could she possibly reveal? The tone of the voice left the audience on edge as they waited for the truth to be revealed. As the founder of World Changers Church International, Pastor Clodoller's humble beginnings turned into a tale of great power and influence that made him a household figure. His lessons on prosperity are applicable not only in the US but also around the world. His message of hope and financial prosperity through faith struck a chord with millions of people, and his charisma and ability to engage audiences made him one of the most well-known characters in contemporary Christianity. Pastor Dollar was the epitome of a spiritual leader and a loving family man. He frequently spoke faith, love, and tenacity, giving the impression that he was a guy who was firmly anchored in his principles. His lectures were full of inspirational. His wife, a strong and encouraging person who supported him throughout his ministry for decades, stood by his side, helping to lay the groundwork for their shared vision. She was more than just a pastor's wife. She was a pillar of the church, a confidant to many, and a symbol of grace under pressure. Behind the scenes, though, her role required a great deal of personal sacrifice, as she balanced the duties of being a mother and a husband. The foundation of their story was a tale of faith, success, and partnership that captivated millions of people. However, beneath the surface lay a reality that would eventually come to light, shaking the very image they had spent decades building over the years. She was a partner and a key figure in the ministry, frequently putting her own needs aside for the greater good while the public saw a united front. Only she truly understood the private toll of their shared mission. Dollar and his spouse, even while the couple kept up a unified face in public, those closest to them started to notice subtle but noticeable changes. Their once easy chemistry now appeared strained, and their interactions within the congregation became more measured and aloof. There was an undercurrent created by the whispers that started to spread. Some members speculated about conflict in their personal lives, while others pointed out discrepancies between their public personas and their actual experiences. The turning point was a revelation that rocked Pastor Dollar's wife to her core. She couldn't ignore a financial disparity that raised serious concerns about the integrity of their ministry. And as she looked further, what she found only made her anxiety worse. The extravagant spending, the hidden accounts, the blurred lines between church funds and personal wealth, all of this pointed to a troubling pattern. But it wasn't just about money. Were instances of personal betrayal that caused even more severe emotional pain, broken promises, and a growing realization that their shared vision had shifted from being about faith and service to being more about power and image. These revelations made her face a reality she had long avoided. The tipping point was potentially a heated argument behind closed doors or an emotional outburst in a vulnerable moment. But she was unable to ignore the realization that the life they had created together was no longer in line with the values they had previously vowed to uphold. But when Pastor Clodoller's wife finally made the decision to speak up, the revelations were shocking. She stood in front of the congregation, her voice steady but laced with the weight of years of unspoken truths. And what she revealed tore apart the meticulously constructed picture of their seemingly ideal life and ministry. She started by tackling the church's financial mishandling in one area that had long been a source of pride for their ministry, claimed that large sums of church cash had been misappropriated for opulent residences, fancy clothes, and personal luxury that greatly outstripped a pastor's family's requirements. Her remarks depicted dubious donations and covert investments, with money going to ventures that had little to do with their goal of sharing the gospel. She acknowledged that the church's resources were being used, and I was unable to ignore what I was witnessing, in actions that violated our congregation's confidence, personal treachery. While she refrained from naming specific instances, she hinted at potential infidelity, leaving the congregation in disbelief. Her revelations went beyond financial issues. She was open about the personal struggles that had afflicted their marriage, including accusations of emotional neglect and moments when she felt abandoned in the very partnership that was meant to be her foundation. Perhaps the most profound aspect of her revelation was the spiritual dissonance she had experienced for years. She spoke of growing discomfort with the prosperity gospel message, a doctrine that had brought them fame and fortune, but had increasingly felt at odds with her personal faith. I started to wonder if we were truly serving God or if we were serving ourselves. Her voice broke slightly, but to live a life so far removed from the image we project was tearing me apart spiritually. Recounted the internal struggle of belonging to a ministry that appeared to put money before worship. Her candor was both devastating and empowering as she revealed the conflicts, betrayals, and struggles that had been concealed behind the ministry's polished exterior. The room fell silent as the congregation and the outside world were left in shock. The revelation sent shockwaves through the church community and beyond for a congregation that had long held Pastor Creflo and his wives as religious pillars. The accusations felt like a betrayal of trust, and the public's response was swift and divided, with both supporters and critics adopting strong positions. Emotions ran high in the church, with some members expressing unwavering loyalty to Pastor Dollar and insisting that the accusations were taken out of context or exaggerated. One congregant said, echoing the sentiments of many who saw the controversy as an attack on their faith. Others' faith, however, was less forgiving. We trusted them with our faith and our money, but there were growing murmurs of dissatisfaction from those who questioned how their tithes and offerings had been handled. Outside the church, a disillusioned member remarked, "Now it feels like we were deceived." The media frenzy was unrelenting, with news agencies breaking down every aspect of the accusations and social media exploding with discussions. Messages of solidarity for the troubled preacher trended alongside hashtags demanding responsibility. Pastor Dollar's answer, Pastor. In a televised sermon, Dollar addressed the accusations head-on, standing at the pulpit with a demeanor that was a mix of vulnerability and defiance. He acknowledged that the accusations were painful, but he vehemently denied the claims of financial mismanagement, citing statements and documents as proof of his transparency. As for the personal allegations, he acknowledged the difficulties in their marriage, but did not delve into specifics. Every marriage has its share of challenges. Despite his best attempts, his response left many skeptical, as critics pointed out contradictions in his explanations. He stated, however, that he believes in the power of forgiveness and reconciliation. Others charged him with avoiding responsibility, which negatively affected their relationship. Unquestionably, their marriage was under strain. Their once unified front appeared to be broken as they dealt with the emotional and public fallout of the discoveries. In private, the couple struggled with the consequences of their choices, and friends and family were close to them. As the dust settled, the future of World Changers Church International hung in the balance. Attendance decreased, donations decreased, and the congregation faced an uncertain future. But some clung to hope. The couple disclosed that they were considering all of their options, including separation counseling and even leaving the ministry to rebuild their lives. This is a crossroads for them, a close associate shared, and whether they decide to reconcile or part ways, one thing is certain: their lives will never be the same. She conveyed a mix of relief and sadness that the ministry might rise again, maybe with a fresh emphasis on transparency. She acknowledged that I had carried this burden for years, but I knew that remaining silent would only allow the cycle to continue. Her voice carried the weight of someone who had finally found the courage to face the truth at all costs. She clarified that her decision was made out of a deep sense of responsibility rather than anger or a desire for vengeance. "I want people to know that it's okay to question, seek the truth, and demand accountability even from those we hold in the highest regard." She added that her words became a rallying cry for transparency and integrity within religious institutions. She said that her message resonated with others in similar situations, especially those who had struggled with the complexities of faith, family, and leadership. In particular, she said that her revelations sparked a broader conversation about faith-based leadership and responsibility. She openly discussed the value of transparency and the lessons she had discovered along the way. Leadership should never serve as a cover for dishonesty or the abuse of authority. Personal integrity is important because faith is about progress and honesty, not perfection. Her bravery prompted others to consider their own experiences with organized religion, sparking conversations on the need for accountability in religious institutions. We must hold ourselves and our leaders to the standards we teach between critical thinking and faith.